Introduction to IoT No3 makes up a rover with Raspberry Pi. How to control a rover, capture digital video and measure temperature. This video explains how to make a rover. Here, the programs of Raspberry Pi were quoted from new IoT textbook by Koji Sakamoto, Learn by Programming of Python. If any problem takes place, please refers to the internet. A rover is a typical IoT device. IoT is based on the technology of computer networks. The technology of computer network enables the remote control of computers. Raspberry Pi is developed for the purpose of IoT education. Raspberry Pi has built-in software, VNC, visual network computing, that can be remotely controlled from other computers, and you can operate the program from Raspberry Pi or from a computer. Therefore, we will make the rover that combines sensors such as cameras controlled by Raspberry Pi and actuators such as motors and learn the digital technology of IoT. The principal parts are Raspberry Pi Model 4 and Pi Camera V2. Parts of IoT Rover, Sendai. The IoT Rover, Sendai, serial number 1 is shown in Fig.1. The framework of the rover, Sendai, comes from an educational robot, Bonten Maru. The upper board of the Bonten Maru, the lower Tamiya twin motor gearbox, and 2 tires. However, microcomputer, servomotor and driver of motor were changed from Bonten Maru. Bonten Maru is an autonomous 2-wheel drive robot developed by the Mechatronics Play Club for elementary and junior high school students. The classes using the Bonten Maru as a teaching material are held at science museums and other places. How to install OS in a Raspberry Pi. OS of Raspberry Pi is installed in a micro SD card by using a computer. After plug the card in Raspberry Pi, follows instructions in order to connect Raspberry Pi at internet and set up remote control, then we can attest remote control. Why OS of Raspberry Pi is Linux based. Nowadays, we use existing programs as materials and combine existing programs to build the desired program. At that time, there is a dependency that package B must be installed in advance when package A is installed. Linux is a method of creating such a program. Linux was started around 1991 by Linus Benedict Torvalds, who released the source code on the internet to have volunteers develop the OS and promised that the developed OS could be used for free. How to install the OS of Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi operating system is available on the website. In the past, the method of installing Raspberry Pi was to download it to a computer and transfer it to an SD card. However, recent OS installation has changed to a method of writing directly to the SD card with Raspberry Pi Imager. Insert the SD card with the OS into the slot of the SD card of the Raspberry Pi and use it like a hard disk. How to achieve remote control. A router is installed at each junction where it connects to the communication line, and an IP address indicating the destination is attached to the tip of the information, and the router receives the information only when it corresponds to the destination address. Enable SSH on the Raspberry Pi side so that the communication content cannot be stolen remotely, and install software called TerraTerm as an SSH client on the PC side. Setting of SSH at computer side. Install the VNC viewer. Enter the IP address of the Raspberry Pi on the VNC viewer screen that starts and enter the username and password on the authentication screen. When the Raspberry Pi is restarted, it may move to another access point. When remote control fails, please check the internet access address. Setting of VNC viewer at computer side. Install the SSH-compatible terminal application, TerraTerm, on your computer and start TerraTerm. Enter the IP address of the Raspberry Pi to access the Raspberry Pi. If the remote control is successful, the screen of the Raspberry Pi desktop will be displayed on the computer display. How to control movements of the rover. Control the view field of the camera by the axis angle of the servo motor. As a method that controls the axis angle of a servo motor by a computer, a mechanism is used to make the analog control signal by a program that changes the duty ratio of PWM pulse width modulation. When you click LX terminal and enter a program, $sudo python servomotor.py, that creates PWM at a specified angle, the camera's gaze moves according to the program. Here, if the shaft angle setting of the servo motor is changed significantly in the program, a large drive current will flow. By changing the angle in small steps, the large current will not flow. Position and direction of the rover are controlled by a DC motor. To move forward, rotate both wheels by a program, $sudo python dcmotor 2021.py that commands the on. When to stop the movement, send signal of Ctrl+C. Clockwise rotation is achieved by rotation of the left wheel, and counterclockwise rotation is achieved by rotation of the right wheel. Apart from the servo motor that controls the view axis, a new servo motor can be added to another terminal to change the direction of travel of the rover. Power supply. A moving rover. The power supply for Raspberry Pi Model 4 is 5.1 volts, 3.0 ampere. We use lithium batteries of 1.5 volts with 2700 mAh 4 pieces in series. This power supply is able to drive the Raspberry Pi. In addition, since the DC motor also draws a large current when it starts, we prepared 4 nickel metal hydride batteries as a separate power source. Problems on setting of Raspberry Pi due to version up. In the latest version of the OS Bullseye, there is no option to enable the camera in the settings screen of the Raspberry Pi interface. All you have to do is connect the camera and you're good to go. The camera module for Raspberry Pi has been upgraded from V10 V5647 with 5 million pixels to V2 IMX219 with 8 million pixels. In the upgraded version V3, an autofocus function has been added. Version up of the OS installation method. The latest method of iOS installation is to install the Raspberry Pi imager on your computer and install the OS directly to microSD card by the imager. Plug in the microSD card into the slot of the Raspberry Pi and it will boot automatically. Follow the instructions to set up the internet connection. The OS is needed to update it to compatible with a new Pi camera. Cautions for changing of SD cards. The SD card inserted into the Raspberry Pi contains firmware that is stored in a non-volatile manner. Therefore, if you insert different SD cards, you may encounter a problem. How to check the video captured by Pi camera. How to begin and end on the video of Pi camera. Shut down the Raspberry Pi and plug the flat cable of the Pi camera V2 IMX219 into the slot. When you start it, the interface of the device to which the software is connected is built into the OS, so if you enter libcamera hello T0 in the left side list of run or $sudo libcamera hello T0 in LX terminal, the camera image will be projected on the display. To end shooting, enter X in the upper right corner or Ctrl+C in the terminal. Collecting data from temperature sensors. There is a program that acquires data from the temperature sensor and view the data on temperature. The measured value is displayed in the shell at the bottom row every 0.5 seconds. Use of computers in agriculture. IoT technology is being introduced in the management of the environment of agricultural greenhouses. By automatically measuring the water level and temperature of the paddy field and checking it with a smartphone, you can save the effort of patrolling. Space exploration where IoT technology is necessary. If we set Wi-Fi routers on the moon, we can extend the internet to the moon. Therefore, humans can remotely control lunar exploration robots while they are on Earth to conduct various explorations and experiments. As a future research topic, we will conduct experiments on the cultivation of vegetables in a closed capsule by remote control, and it is expected that the capsule will be used in experiments such as placing the capsule on the lunar surface. Summary. Computer networks operate using a function that intermittently holds data in memory idiographic period. With a PC connected to the Internet, you can view images mediated by a remotely controlled microcomputer from your home computer and operate the DC motor and servo motor drive of the Rover. This kind of open-loop control is easier than the automatic control method with a feedback loop because the operation is directed by a human. In the future, it is expected to be used to grasp the status of the landing site and conduct experiments on the lunar surface in the planned lunar development. Thank you for your attention.